Hi, this is Janet Eifred. I'm going to show you how to work out a fraction of a number and a percentage of a number. Now this is part 1 of this video because part of this is easier work. We're going to do the easier work here. The more difficult work, which is probably you would look at secondary school, is in the next video in part 2. Okay, so let's get started on this. We're calculating fraction of a number and percentage of a number. We are going to times by 10 and times by 100, which I'm sure you can do for this. This first one, you just add a 0 and add 2 zeros. But how will you do it for a decimal number? Let's see, we've got 0.2. Now we times, in other words, we want a bigger answer. So the decimal point goes to the right. It moves 1 because we've got 1 0 there. The decimal point moves 1, it's at after the 2 now, so we've got a 2 point. Now we don't want to see a point after a number. If there's nothing after it, it becomes invisible. So you can really see any number that you see has got an invisible point after it, but we don't really want to see it. Okay, 0.2 times 100. So let's write down 0.2. Let's add another 0 here because that will change nothing to this number. There's invisible zeros there. Anyway, we times with 2 zeros there, in other words, move the point 2, 1, 2. So my new point is after the 0 there, so it's going to be 20 because we won't have a 0 there because it doesn't mean anything. Okay, so that answer is 20. So if you times by 10, you move the point 1. If you times by 100, you move the point twice. That is times by 10. That is times by 100. Now, what do you think you would do when you divide? When you divide, your answer will become smaller, so you will take the point and move it back 1 when you divide by 10, and you will take the point and move it back 2 when you divide by 100. 2 divided by 10. Look at that 2, there's an invisible point there. Let's just put a 0 in front because it can help us. We move back the point, the new point at just before the 2, in other words 0.2. Okay, if we say 2 divided by 100, we've got 2 and we've got our invisible point there. We don't like to see, we need to see it now. We've got a 0 and a 0 there. Because we can just put it there, it's helpful. Let's do 1, 2. My new point's at there, so it is 0.02. Okay, pause the video, you do the rest. Now there's your answers. Please pause the video and check your answers. I will go for those who find this hard. I will do it in more detail in the decimal video. Okay, we're moving on. We are looking at 10% of a number. So what is 10%? 10% is, as a fraction, 10 over 100, which is, when we simplify that, divide 10 top and bottom, we get 1 over 10, and that is divided by 10. So when we work out 10%, we can just divide by 10. Okay, so 10% of 20 would be 20 divided by 10, which is 2. Now if 10% is 2, what would 20% be? 20 is double the 10, so what is double 2 is 4. Okay, pause the video and you try the rest. Now for those who need a little bit more help, let's just go through here. What is 10% of 460? It is whatever the number is divide by 10. And that gives us 46. Now, how do you get from 10% to 30%? You times by 3. In other words, you times by 3. If you don't know how to times, go to my multiplication work videos. That is 138. Yeah, 40 times 3 is 120, 6 times 3 is 18. And we add 120 and 18. Okay? Now pause the video, do the rest if you haven't done so yet. We are moving on, and there's your answers. Please pause the video and check your answers. Now we are moving on. Still on the 10% method. What is 10% of 60? That is 60 divided by 10, which is 6. Now what is 5%? 5% is half of 10%, so we need half of 6. 3. 15%. 15% is 10 plus 5. So we need 6 plus 3, which gives us 9. Okay, pause the video and you try the rest. Now let me just do this one with you. 10% of 110 is 11. 5% is half of 10, so half of 11, which is 5.5. 20% is double 10%, so we need double 11, which is 22. 25% is 5 plus 20, which is these two added up, which is 27.5. Okay, and if you want to follow a different method here to work out 25%, the 10% method can be long. For this, we can simply work out a quarter of 110 because we know 25% is a quarter. And to work out a quarter, most of my students coming here know you half and half again. So in other words, you just work out 110 divided by 4. And that will also give you 27.5. Okay, now pause the video and do the rest if you haven't done so yet. We're moving on. And there's your answers. Pause the video and check it. We are moving on to more 10%. Now this time we want to work out 7.5%. So let's start at 10%. 10% of 20 is 20 divided by 10, which is 2. 5% is half of 10, which is, what is half of 2 is 1. 2.5 is half of 5, so what is half of 1? 0.5. 7.5 is 5 plus 2.5. In other words, we need 1 plus 0.5, which is 1.5. Okay, it's your turn. Pause the video and you complete this sheet. Okay, I'm just quickly going to work through this for those of you who find this quite hard. 10% of 60 is 60 divided by 10, which is 6. 5% of 60. 5 is half of 10, so we need half of 6. 3. 2.5 is half of 5, so we need half of 3. 1.5. 7.5 is 5 and 2.5, which is 3, plus 1.5, which is 4.5. And now 17.5 is 10 plus 7.5, in other words 6 plus 4.5, which is 10.5. Okay, if you haven't yet complete the sheet, pause the video for that. We are moving on. Okay, and there's your answers there. Please check them. Pause the video to check. We are moving on. Now, how do we work out 1%? Let's see. 1% is equal to 1 over 100. So you can see we need to divide by 100. Okay, what is 50 divided by 100? We take the point there, we move it back 1, 2. Point is before the 5, in other words, 0.5. Now you know 10%, you know how to work out the rest. It's only the 1% that is new here. So what would 1% of 555 be? That is 555 divided by 100. Point, move back 1, 2. It becomes 5.55. Okay, pause the video and complete this. We are moving on to the answers. Please check your answers there, pause the video to check. Okay, now we are going to look at fraction of a number. I do find that some of my students really just don't like fractions, and as soon as you say the word fraction, they just feel they can't do it. They just believe, I don't know how to do this. Okay, so let's give it to you visually. Let's see if this maybe makes more sense, as it does for all my students. 18. We've got 18. We want to work out a third. So we're going to split that 18 in 3 bits. Okay, 18 divided by 3 is 6. So that bit is 6, that part is 6, that part is 6. 6 plus 6 is 12, plus 6 is 18. So we've got our 18 back. So can you see that 1/3 will be 6? How did you get that 1/3? You said 18 divided by 3. 18 divided by 3 to get 1/3. In other words, our answer is 6 there. 2/3 of 18. Now we already know 1/3 is 18 divided by 3, which is 6. 6. 6. Now 2/3 would be 6 plus 6, or 6 times 2, which is 12. So let's see, how can we think of doing this? It's 18 divided by 3, and then we have to times that answer by 2. And then we get 6 times 2, which is 12. Okay, if we have 27 and we want to split it in thirds, we want to take the 27 and split it in 3. It's 27 divided by 3, which is 9. 1/3 of 27, can you see what you have to do is 27 divided by 3 and you get 9. Okay, you try the next one. What would 2/3 of 27 be? Pause the video. We are moving on. There's your answers. There you can see how you got the 18. Pause the video if you want to look more at this. We are moving on. Now, I just give you lots of practice here. Fraction of a number. How will you remember to divide by the bottom number? There is an easy way to remember that. If I ask you, what is 1/2 of 10? What's the answer to that? 5. All my students who come to me know what's 1/2 of 10. 1/2 of 10 pound is 5 pound. Everyone knows that. How did you get this 5? Let's look. How did you get this 5? You can say it is 10 divided by 2. So you took this 10 and you divide by the bottom number. Therefore, we are going to divide by the bottom number. Okay, remember it like that. 32 divided by the bottom number, which is 4, gives me 8. And 8 times 1 is just 8. Okay, 70 divided by 5. What's 70 divided by 5? You probably want to go this way. If you don't know how to do this, go to my division sheets and video. 5 goes in 7, 1 remainder 2, 5 goes in 20, 4. So it's going to be 14 times 2, which is 28. Okay, all of this you can do with your divisions with the bus stop method, okay? For the ones that's in your times tables, you obviously don't need this and cannot follow this method. Okay, pause the video and you complete this sheet. There you go, there's your answers. Pause the video and check them. Now we're going to look at, if I say 50% of 120, you will probably immediately think, oh, that's half of 120. In other words, it is 60. So what did you really do? You changed the 50% to a fraction, which is a half. Now this method we can follow for all the percentages that we know what the fraction is, because that method will go faster than the 10% method. So we know 33.33 forever going on is a third. In other words, we can say that is a third of 30, which is going to be 30 divided by the bottom number, which is 3. And that gives you a 10. 10 times 1 is 10. Okay? So I've given you some clues here in the beginning of this page. It's not towards the end and on the next page. So please follow this. Please try to do them using fraction of a number. Pause the video and do the rest. Okay, now it's your turn to check. Just pause the video and check this, and we are moving on. Okay, I just give you here more practice. Just pause the video and quickly try this. Here you have to really decide, am I going to use the fraction of a number method, or am I going to use the 10% method? So every time that would be, obviously that's already fraction of a number, so you'll do that. 50% you will go for half, which is fraction of a number. 25% you will go for a quarter, which is fraction of a number. If you work out 30%, how do you think you'll do that? Yes, with the 10% method. Okay. Your turn, pause the video and complete this. There you go, there's your answers. Please check them. There's more practice for you. This time we have centimeters here. Let's quickly try to do this one together. What is 40% of 19? We are going to start off with 10% of 19. What will 10% of 19 be? That would be 19 divided by 10. If we have 19, we have the point there, we move it back 1, it's 1.9. And now we need 40%. So we need to times by 4. What is 1.9 times 4? We can double it and double it again. Yeah? 1.9 plus 1.9. Yeah, what is that? $3.8. And then we double that 3.8 again, and we get 7.6. Now what would that be? Just 7.6? It would be centimeter, because that's centimeter. That answer would be pound. 10% method here. There you've got fraction of a number. 10% method, 10% method. Change this to 1/3 of, and your answer will be in pounds. Okay, it's your turn. Pause the video. Do the rest. Now pause the video and check your answers. Okay, I just have a few word problems there. There's more in the workbook. The workbook will be for both parts of the video. It's including everything, so I take you back to basics where you start to learn fraction of a number up to most what you have to know in secondary school. So pause the video if you haven't yet and complete these word problems. There you go, there's your answers. Please check them. Pause the video to check. This is then the end of this video. Please go to part 2. If you feel happy with this video, please go on to part 2. You will really enjoy learning more about fractions and fraction of a number. Thank you so much for listening. Please download the workbook if you need more practice.